everyone. We're just going to wait about a minute or so. Awesome. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I'm Lauren Smith with the International Franchise Association, and we have a great session lined up for you. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that we are recording today's webinar and will make it available later this evening on community.franchise.org. If you have any questions for today's speakers, please add them to the Q&A box and they will be addressed toward the end. Today, we have the last installment of a 3-part webinar series sponsored by Sochi. Today's topic is the power of local engagement, boosting loyalty and sales. Here to provide today's discussion is Janie Page, Chief Marketing Officer at The Human Bean, Damian Rollison, Director of Market Insights at Sochi, and Casey McBride, Director of Customer Experience at Sochi. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to Sochi for sponsoring today's webinar. I'll go ahead and turn things over to you.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, everybody. Some of you I may have spoken to before. I've been on a couple of these, but if you're new, please accept our gratitude for joining us. I'm Damian Rollison, as Lauren said, Director of Market Insights at Sochi. Been with the company for several years now and work within the marketing department to provide research and insights on what's happening in the industry. We're going to share some of that with you today. I thought we'd do just a couple of introductions of our fellow speakers as well. Casey, do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So Casey McBride, Director of Customer Experience at Sochi. With that, I have the really cool job of getting to deal with a lot of our subject matter expertise team. So really looking into our team of SEOs, our team of social media experts, of data analysts, and working very closely with our customers to make sure that they understand the why and how and results of their different marketing strategies. I've worked for Sochi for about 4 years. Prior to that, I was on the SEO team at Dick's Sporting Goods. So digital marketing has been my whole life for quite a while.
So Casey and I work very closely together at Sochi, and we're both sort of SEO nerds, if you're not offended by that term, Casey.
Not even a little bit.
So we're here to provide that kind of commentary. And then Janie, we're so glad to have you here, CMO of The Human Bean. We're grateful to be partnered with you at Sochi, and I know that we've done some very interesting things together, and we're hoping to hear more about that strategy from your point of view. But if you don't mind offering our audience just a little bit of background about who you are, how you came to work at The Human Bean, what do you love about the brand, anything you'd like to share.
Well, that's a lot of questions. But yes, thanks for having me. Thank you. We appreciate the partnership. I'm Janie. I'm experienced 20 years in marketing. I can't believe I can even say that. I actually started in field marketing, so all about local engagement. I worked for PJ United, which was the largest franchisee of Papa John's Pizza. And so I hit the ground running right after college, learning the ropes and guerrilla marketing, grassroots marketing, long before social media. So I laugh about that today. But I actually went to go work for a coffee company shortly after my stint at PJ United and fell in love with the coffee world. I love it. I'm passionate about it. I'm a Q grader of it, which means it's like a wine sommelier for coffee. Love it. And my dream was to lead a marketing team for a coffee house. I had helped The Human Bean and the founders and the COO with like a few projects here and there, and then got the opportunity to come work for them directly and fulfill a dream I had. So I've been here for 2.5 years, and I'm not looking back. I love it. So thanks for having me, and hopefully that was what you asked me to share.
Oh, totally. As a matter of fact, I wish we had time to ask a few follow-up questions because your
Sure.
bio sounds very interesting.
Ask away.
Maybe it'll come up as we go here. I
Yes.
want to make sure we have time for the content. So to launch us into it, then we're going to be talking about some topics related to building local engagement and getting more value out of local channels. And I wanted to share some of the research that we've done at Soci, which hopefully is going to help to reinforce how important these considerations are. And I think, fundamentally, as you look at a stat like this, 80% of consumers search online for a local business at least once per week. You're probably not too surprised by that, since we, of course, are all consumers. And we know that although you may not need to pull out your phone and look up the local grocery store on Google Maps that you go to every week, you do have needs on a regular basis where you don't already have all the information that you need. And whereas, Janie was talking about the days before social media, which I certainly remember as well. I also remember the days of the print yellow pages, right? Where it used to arrive in your driveway a couple times a year. And we noticed they got thinner and thinner over the years. And now where are they? Well, that's because we have our phones and we have our devices and we have tools like Google and Yelp and Facebook and others where we look up information about local businesses, and just about everybody does that. Even if the frequency of need is going to differ, people might look up food and beverage businesses like yours more often than they do an insurance agent. But when you have a need, that's where you go to find out. And so that's really the most common behavior.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. The frequency, I feel like, happens because of a lot of these additional features that have at our fingertips now when it comes to Google and Yelp and social media and whatever channel you're posting your local business information in. Consumers have come to expect that there's going to be that up-to-date information, like, oh, do they have brunch this weekend? Do they have any events happening for Mother's Day? Or are they open? It's a holiday. Like weird, not weird, but fringe questions like that have more of like an urgency and a frequency. These networks have trained the user to know that those answers will be available to them. So it's really important for businesses to stay up to date because consumers are searching.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
That's actually one of the major reasons why we encourage individual location pages. We know that we have multi-unit operators, but it's advantageous for them to each have their own individual page for SEO, to be able to find that local. If it's all shared within one umbrella, it's only going to push one to one location versus having each their own. So this is one of the major reasons why, and so she actually allows us to do it easily. So that's one of our main things.
And we love to hear that, because although you guys seem to have it already figured out and inherent in your strategy, this idea of localization, digital localization on all the important platforms for all locations, a lot of brands don't really think about it that way. They may think of Google, right? But maybe Facebook is just about corporate presence. And we're going to dig into that a little bit further as to, why that is really important. It's not a world that is standing still, though. There's some interesting change going on. And one of the things in this same Consumer Behavior Index report that we highlighted was, what platforms are people actually using these days when they search? So we know most people search online when they have a local need and they need information. But if you look at the platforms that they're using, and especially when you start to break it down by age group, you're going to see some interesting trends emerge. So here we compared survey respondents who responded that in the last 30 days, when they had a local need, what platforms have they looked at? And Google Search and Google Maps were voted very highly across most demographic groups. But if you look at the other sites, which are all social, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, what's really interesting is in the younger age groups, those are actually getting to be more popular now. So with 18 to 24-year-olds all the way over on the left, 67% said they'd use Instagram to look up a local business in the last 30 days. 62% said they'd done the same thing on Snapchat, or sorry, on TikTok rather. 62% on TikTok compared to 61% using Google search. So for 18 to 24-year-olds, to summarize what I just said, they're using Instagram and TikTok over Google when looking up a local business. And for some of us who don't maybe use TikTok, et cetera, very often, that stat is like really astounding, because the question is, how do you even do that? How do you even look up a local business on TikTok? Isn't it just about videos that you see in your feed, et cetera? Casey,
Well,
you were...
yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that it's almost thinking more about that like experience-based type of search. I think a lot of, especially the younger generation, when they're searching for places to go, whether it's like cities to visit or brands that they're interested in, what TikTok and Instagram, especially TikTok, do is kind of allow this like immersive, like, here's what you'll experience by visiting X, Y, and Z. And it's a little more like personal. And what's been really interesting is to watch Google's response to a lot of this, right? Like Google notes a lot of this pickup in popularity on TikTok and Instagram. And there's been so many features kind of deployed on Google now that's trying to amplify, offer and event posts and make it so much more important to have photos on your listings and things like that. And I think a lot of that is in answer to this massive increase in popularity of that type of search.
Yep.
Slide is really important to me because it helps me educate our franchise partners on this migration, because they might not be the ones actually searching on TikTok or Instagram, but the future is. So we need to start now. So we've been migrating over the past 2 years, because we did have all of our locations together if they were a multi-unit franchise partner, but we've started to split it up just for this purpose. And so this is a great slide to showcase that to franchise partners, to show the value and the migration for the younger generation.
Especially if you're trying to appeal to that younger demographic. But I'm guessing, you tell me, Janie, you guys probably think across all demographic groups, right?
Yeah.
You probably don't have just one target.
And even if it's happening younger, it takes time. I mean, we're driving a big ship right now, right? So to help them convert and create these pages, that takes time. So we've been working hard on it for the past 2 years, and we've been pretty successful, but we still have some ways to go. And it doesn't matter if it's younger now, those younger folks are going to be doing the same thing later. So why not start now? We know the trend is happening, so start now.
One more thing before we jump off of this slide. Notice that the bar representing Facebook, which is that kind of dark blue color in the middle of each age group, is actually the strongest one for social across all age groups. So still, Facebook is kind of the default. If you got to do something, you have to do that. But as the younger generations become the dominant demographic over time, you're going to see that rise of TikTok and Instagram becoming more and more important. So engaging your local audiences online, it's all well and good to say you should do that, but how do you do that is really the question. And so we wanted to bring in some examples of what the human being is doing, and definitely, Janie, have you kind of comment on the strategy behind some of this stuff. But first of all, and you'll see some examples as we go through the next few slides. First of all, I just wanted to showcase some research that we did and called out the human being in that research, in fact, related to the difference between posting localized content and other kinds of strategies on Facebook in particular. And the one that really kind of showcases the divide, and it's very interesting because, as I understand it, Janie, you guys do a little bit of both of these
We
things,
do. We
right?
absolutely do. We believe in the hybrid approach because you do need to have a brand voice. We talk about our promotions and things where we're driving the company, whereas the localized post is really local. You're talking about what's happening at the high school, what's happening in the community. It could even be the weather, how hot it is. We're in 23 states now, and I can't predict what's happening in New Jersey or Florida or anything like that. That has to be done at the local level, and something I can't do here at the support center, or our team can't do here at the support center. So and community is really important to our brand. We have actually 4 give backs a year. Even the give backs are localized. I can't say which one we're donating to. The location has to own that and promote it and talk about it, because they understand the community way more than I can for living in Medford. So we train, we provide tools, we provide ideas and concepts constantly, to provide some insights on what works and what doesn't work. So, and then we have a library where we share all these different ideas.
I didn't want to skip over in case anybody's confused about the terminology. So just to kind of explain really quick what the different terms are. So waterfall posting is the term that we use to describe on Facebook. You've got your corporate page for the human being, not a particular location, but just your overall brand page on Facebook. And you're posting content. And because Facebook lets you do this with what they call a parent-child structure, so the parent page is the corporate page, and each of the child pages is the page for each individual location, right? As you post on the parent page, you can copy down a copy of those posts to each of the child pages. That's what's called you understand the waterfall visual is meant to depict that, right? So
yeah,
that's
they subscribe to that. Yeah, and they can pick and choose which ones they want to partake in.
Right. And then on the right-hand side, you're seeing an example of a localized post where the human being of Roseburg is the only one posting that content, right? So that's the other version that we're talking about. What's interesting about these 2 examples here, first of all, you can see just by their very nature, and Janie, you illustrated this very well, the one on the left is more of an overall brand message. The one on the right is very specific to that location. This is the barista of the month for this location, right? So you can see how they naturally kind of fall into 2 groups. But also, I don't want to get too technical, but just really quick, if you look at the engagement signals on the left, 48 reactions, 10 comments, 2 shares. At the bottom of the post on the right, 8 reactions, 1 comment, 2 shares. What's interesting about that is on those engagements on the right-hand side are all just for the human being of Roseburg. Whereas on the left-hand side, that's an aggregate across the entire brand. So if you do the math on that, the one on the right is actually earning more engagement for that location than the one on the left, because the engagement is fractional. They only get a share of the one on the left. I hope I didn't make a hash of that explanation, but in other words, the idea is that localized posting actually has a ton of value in trying to build loyalty with your brand at that local level.
Yeah, people definitely want to see faces, baristas. We can't show all the baristas across the country in our posting. I think we do a great job of trying to do that, especially through UGC on our brand page. But just so you guys know, I truly believe in that balance of localized, and we call it brand national. The national calendar is what we call it internally. But just to give you some average engagement rate stats, just for Facebook per se, our post is about a 3.3%, which is fantastic because the average is for coffee house 0.23% on Facebook. If you look at QSR, which I benchmark against QSR quite a bit, it's 2.54. So we're at a 3.3. Our engagement rate is really strong for Facebook, but the local is a 5.2. So think about that. You need kind of both. Now, Instagram is a little different. Our engagement from a national calendar is a 5.4. Our localized calendar is a 5.8. So pretty neck and neck. But that gives you a sense of how that balance is important, because we need to promote what's happening on from the brand standpoint, that voice, that ownability, the unique aspects of the human being. But also we need to allow our franchise partners to have the freedom to talk to their communities, because that's an important pillar of our brand.
Yeah, that makes sense. And those stats are very compelling. We found that for the posts that we looked at for the human being, that you had a 73% advantage. This is just Facebook, not Instagram. 73% advantage on engagements for the localized content in comparison with the waterfall posting, which is another way of talking about that same advantage that you were just describing. And then, so to go over a couple more examples then, and this is a little bit more of a deep dive into actually how do you build this local engagement, which, by the way, I think it's very interesting in this highlighting local employees. We talked about the barista of the month before. Maybe you can tell us what is going on in this video, but what I notice about it is it's short form video. It's like a TikTok type of an approach.
Yes, we all of our franchise locations, they can do reels. We have a policy and guidelines of like, stay within these parameters. We're family friendly brand, specialty quality, but they do videos. They come up with their own. In fact, some of our franchise partners allow their baristas to be part of our Beanovator team. Our Beanovator team is ones we've selected in the marketplace to create videos for us. We guide them in what we're trying to do, and they create it in the stand, because you know what? Our baristas know how to make the drinks.
Yeah.
I can't just get anybody to go do that. So this is the playfulness that you get when you let the franchise partners have some creativity, a creative license within guardrails.
Yeah.
So we watch that, we monitor, and what's really interesting is the franchise partners monitor each other. It's quite an interesting feat. But yes, they love to see the baristas. This is just showing all the different people, because all those folks have friends that love to see them on the reels for the brand as well. So it becomes just this series of all these people looking at this post and driving traffic to that specific post. So it's really exciting. One thing I do say, when we are highlighting employees, we do have to think about safety. And so we never use their last name, and we always get their permission. So those are a couple of things I just say to all the other folks that are loving the idea. Just make sure you have guardrails in place, safety for the employee, and they are willing to participate.
Well, and for a business like yours, and a couple other business types even pop into mind, there's some employees and some businesses that just become such pillars in the community. Your local barista is one of those people. I mean, my local coffee shop, I know my baristas by name. I am there multiple times a week, right? Like you get associated with who they are. So it makes sense why that content is more engaging at the local level. You'll get excited to see who you know in your community on your social media channel, and engage with that. I think it's genius.
Well, people love our baristas, but we love our customers just the same. And so a lot of locations have actually decided to do human being of the week. And that's the customer they highlight, not just the barista now, it's the customer, and the customer loves it. They usually get a little prize, or maybe their drink is free that day, and they are, asked for permission to share. And of course, some of them try to bribe the baristas to be that barista, the human being of the week. So that's another local content we can't do from our support center that others have to do.
Well, you guys need to open a location in my town, because I would go. It sounds like a fun.
Call us up. We're franchising. I could do some sales right now.
Maybe I'll open one.
That would be great. Thank you.
Another example here is to create a local giveaway. Do you want to just kind of speak to what's going on in this one, Janie?
I do. Well, a lot of our locations, this is just one of many. And I'll kind of back up here. We do big giveaways, right? We've done, prize giveaways, tickets to concerts, all sorts of things. But you know what works best is a local giveaway. A giveaway, even just a smaller giveaway, because people, if it's too large, people don't think they can win. If it's a smaller giveaway, they think, hey, I have a chance at this. And so stickers, gift cards, smaller prizes, our swag bags that we just throw stuff in. We even make videos where you just throw the things in the bags. They resonate with people and people love them. We will receive just as much of engagement or tagging, because we ask them to tag them and a friend to win. We'll see just as much of engagement for that as we will a major giveaway. So keep that in mind, but we do a lot of local giveaways. We have bags, we have steps and processes on how to do it, how to actually give it away. And your system actually makes it really easy because you can randomize the winner. That is a lovely feature, and it takes us out of it. It just picks it for us. And so our franchise partner utilize that tool quite a bit.
That is so cool. And I love this idea. So we sometimes talk kind of in a generic way about how when you're producing social content, a lot of brands just think about promotional. We're having a sale, we have great products, promote, promote, promote. But promotional content, frankly, is kind of boring. You're not going to get a lot of engagement around it unless it's a picture of a cute pet or maybe a cup of coffee, but there's a limit, right? Whereas the content that's really engaging is giving you something, right? Or asking you for feedback, or enter this sweepstakes, this contest, or something that makes it imperative for the person to do something in response or get something in response. It's if it's you guys have a kind of an entertaining take on this. Some brands might find it easier to be useful, like, tips and tricks and how-tos, if it's a hardware store or something like that. So the approaches might differ quite a bit from brand to brand, but you definitely have to be more than just promotional in order to get that engagement.
It's fun. It's got to be fun and engaging.
Yeah. Partner with local schools and sports teams. Now that sounds like it could be a little difficult to organize. Is that something that the local franchisees are doing on their own, or are you encouraging that as well?
They are. We are encouraging them to partner with local schools. We use drinks and drinks colors to promote them. If there's a high school football game and their color's red, they may highlight our color of bright energy, which is Smash Melon. I think you can see it in the background here. But we have so many different colors of drinks and names in our secret drink menu that you can utilize to help partner with local schools and have school nights. And we have some cheerleader groups come for grand openings, or even if they're trying to raise money. We have guest baristas that come, and people love to come in and get a cup of coffee from their friend that's maybe behind the bar. We have programs in place for us to facilitate this at the schools.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question, Casey, but I just realized I forgot to mention earlier, guys, who are listening. If you have a question, there's a Q&A tool in the Zoom tools. Please feel free to post questions at any time. And as we keep going here, we'll try to monitor for those. And if possible, we'll answer questions as we're going. But please don't hesitate to ask questions in that Q&A tool. Casey, so this partnering with local schools and sports teams is making me think about SEO, because there's a kind of a long-standing SEO recommendation for local businesses to do exactly the same kind of thing in order to build, backlinks to your website, mentions that would help you to, rank better in local searches, et cetera. What it strikes me is that there's an opportunity here to do things that are actually going to benefit you in more than just one way.
Absolutely.
This kind of activity. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of conversation, especially recently, about the need in search to think about optimizing for more than just search. And this concept of overall authority and your brand authority in the space, having these type of local social footprints is really important to building up your overall credibility. And something else that this reminds me of too, Google actually has the ability now for listings to link to individual social media pages. And
Right.
then we've actually seen examples where there's some social feeds that have popped up at times, like in the business listings as a result of these links. And, again, I think a lot of this is in response to some of that shift to social in search, where Google's kind of seeing this and saying, nope, come back. Like we have it too. We're trying to make this like universal experience. So like from a search perspective, Google is paying attention to this. So it's really great and cross beneficial.
And we're noticing too that Google is really looking for signals that you have authenticity and that you're well liked as a brand. And it might be that you're showing up on the local school's website or a sports team's web presence somehow, or social site, or that you might be mentioned in a news article. All of those kinds of things tend to help the brand in indirect ways. So there's a direct motivation for doing this sort of thing, building engagement, to that social profile. But there's a lot of indirect benefits as well. And not to mention, of course, you're building a presence in your community. That's really what you're doing, right?
Right.
And all of these other things are side benefits, but there are also significant benefits. Hosting a local event. So this is the first annual, pictures of cute pets. I mentioned that earlier. It's a secret weapon in social. I happen.
Wrong. Well, we have pet parades. We have exotic pet parades. All sorts of things, especially being a drive-through, right? You can see all sorts of animals. But from pup cup parades to classic car shows, our local give backs, I mentioned we have 4 a year, but I can guarantee a lot of our locations do more than that. They partner with whoever is, they're passionate about in their area, to host these local events. And it's so engaging. It's just a fun thing. You get to know not only the people, but their families and their pets, while you do these types of things. So super fun and engaging.
Awesome. And I love the idea that you're empowering the franchisees to do these things with guidance, with guardrails, but you wouldn't be able to do it unless they also were very engaged and participating and contributing. And
Yeah.
sometimes people are scared to give them that much power, but that's really wonderful.
Yeah, we have some amazing franchise partners and they do it above and beyond. Of course, we provide some directions and some idea thought starters, but those are just thought starters. They make it their own, and they make it even bigger with exotic pets and all sorts of things that you see. But it's super fun. Everybody likes to share. Especially when you see your pet online, hey, that you brag about your pet. So it does amplify the message in the event.
What you were saying earlier when we were looking at the video about how good the franchisees and the store employees, et cetera, are at creating video content, it's really one of the things that we need to remember, that actually the content that performs the best is a little bit more informal, spontaneous, created by people who are, on TikTok and similar platforms a lot, and they understand what's going to resonate. It doesn't have to be a professionally produced commercial. In fact, it really shouldn't be, right? It
You're
should.
absolutely right. Yep. We found that, more authentic commercials will do better, or reels. The really, really high glossy ones are not what people are looking for. So definitely those reels that are not perfect.
Yeah,
Are, so.
absolutely. Well, if you are interested in learning more about our study about the power of localization in social media, including stats about what the human being has done to be so successful, please feel free to scan this QR code or visit the link shown on the screen. I'll linger on this slide for a second just to give you time to grab your phone if you would like to do that. And I'm sure we'll provide this information afterwards as well. If you don't have your phone nearby, who doesn't have their phone nearby? What am I saying? One more second on that. Okay. So just a couple more topics to kind of round this out. We like to think of local marketing as involving several different activities that are all somehow linked to each other. So social engagement and responding to reviews, I would say, is a good example of that. And so reviews are showing up in lots of different places where people are also looking up information or discovering or following socially your brand, right? And so in this case, we're looking at a review from a Google profile that the human being has responded to, but reviews can show up on Yelp. They can even show up on Facebook. They call them recommendations. It's, there's a kind of a thin line between a review and a post or a response to a post on a social platform. In all cases, we're just talking about a customer is offering you an opinion or asking a question or making a comment of some kind, and essentially they're then waiting to see what are you going to do, right? We think of reviews as being maybe more just a source of information about whether a product or a service is recommended, but really whenever there's an opportunity to post a response and you don't post one, that's a vote against you as a brand that cares about its customers. At least I don't want to put words in your mouth, Janie, but is that similar to the way that you guys think about reviews?
Absolutely. Reviews, positive, negative, a customer wants to be heard. And we take this seriously to respond to them within an appropriate time. Appropriate time for us is 24 to 48 hours. We want to make sure that they are heard. Some people, I notice a lot of brands don't respond to the positive reviews, but we think that's important. So we set a policy that a franchise partner must respond to a review within an appropriate time, which is 24 to 48 hours. If we monitor it on top of that. If we see that they're not responding to a review, we actually will respond on their behalf within 5 business days. So it's really important to us. And in the review, reviews are getting a little bit more complex. So when they're asking a question, it gives us an opportunity to explain and to give them more insights into the brand. So at first, I think we started using templates that we can store, but we're starting to expand and make sure that we addressed specifically what they're asking for. That's what I really like about this Genius social platform. It can get more specific, and so I'm anxious to start using that come January. But right now, we take every review, we respond to it, and we'll see things in there like specific drinks or things they're specifically asking about.
So Jenny, when you mention Genius, I want to make sure people understand, and we'll talk about this just briefly at the end as well, but that's a kind of an automation layer that we've added into many of our services in our platform that uses AI. But I want to be careful to say, we're not saying that AI is going to automatically take over this process. What it does is it helps to actually make it more personal and authentic and relevant by suggesting those responses, which then a human being looks at and approves or doesn't. Most of the time, the responses are pretty good out of the gate, but a human is looking over all of that. But it just gives you the ability to extend that personal brand voice to more people in a more timely way, really. So it's enhancing that capability that we have, and we think AI is wonderful at doing that. And So as we talk about the importance of reviews, and Janie, you were just talking about responding also to positive reviews. You know, the stats show that brands are really not doing a great job overall. So the average brand responds to only about 46% of the reviews that they receive. And some, you know, if that's the average, that means that many brands are not responding to many or not responding at all. Negative reviews only responded to about 35% of the time. So the trend seems to actually be that brands are more likely to respond to a positive review. You guys had it are it's making sure that people are responding to the positive reviews, and maybe there's a more of a trend to responding to the negative ones naturally. But regardless, what you need to know is it's consumers who are looking at those reviews and the responses that they do or don't have that are the important consideration here. So if you only respond to the negative ones, people think you only care when people complain, that you're in a damage control mode all the time, and that you don't bother to thank people for liking you. Why would you not do that? Would you do that when somebody walked up to you in a store? I mean, never, right? So that's the kind of, you know, common sense approach that I think you need to take to this, with
Well,
the stats helping to inform.
I would be remiss not to mention too, you know, we're talking a lot about the very important, probably most important aspects of reputation management, which is like keeping your customers happy and listened to and talking to them where they are. But it's important to also think as well, there's strong correlation between responding to reviews and then improvements to your overall star rating, which
Yes.
will also improve your performance in all of these channels, right? If you are responding to reviews just purely from a, you know, tactical data perspective, you want to capture more leads, you want to capture more visibility, you have to improve your overall star rating. The way to do that is meeting these customers where they are, responding to reviews and boosting those ratings up.
Yep. And average rating is a ranking factor.
Yes.
So the higher that rating goes, the higher you'll rank. You can't influence directly how people rate you, but you can influence it indirectly. And as Casey's saying, that's one of the most, responding to reviews is one of the most effective ways to do that.
And if you actually respond within a reasonable time and and they see that you took action, sometimes they'll go back and change that rating.
Yeah.
So that can help you tremendously. And that's what we want to see.
Yep. The
Yep.
stats show that they are more likely to change their rating to make it
That's right.
positive, especially if you respond quickly. Yeah.
Exactly.
This is another finding from our consumer survey. And just to kind of the quick version of this, we asked people when a business responded to your, you know, most recent review, the most recent time that a business responded to your review, how did you feel about the interaction? And although 50% of people said that they were satisfied, the other 50% were not, either somewhat satisfied, unsatisfied, or very unsatisfied. That made up another half of the responses. And I think that's really not good enough. That's my perception, that brands should look at that and go, all right, we can't just respond, very much to the point that you were making earlier, Janie. You can't just say, thanks for your business. Thanks for your business. Sorry you had a bad experience. You can't just say those things over and over again. You can't just do a templated response that is generic. It has to be personal. It has to be real. Whether AI is helping you to do that or not, the perception from the consumer side has to be this, there's a brand that's listening to me and that cares about my concern and isn't just responding so they can check off something on a checklist. And it looks like brands are not doing a great job of this. But half of the time their responses are basically, so-so, but not really satisfying.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get in a trap and just try to answer the reviews really quick. I mean, I can share that we've been guilty of it. But I think the challenge is to think of a review just like as an interaction with the customer at the window. We call it with a bean on top. We go above and beyond service. It's genuine, it's authentic. We need to make sure that our reviews are the same way. They're genuine, authentic, and to take more time and not just check the box and make sure that we're doing a great job. Because people do hear us, and we want, if it's 50% satisfied, for them to change their review on us. That will improve our ratings anyway. And I think we, as the human being, can do a great job with that too.
I love that bean on top. I like the way you guys extend your brand in like very organic ways into all these different things. It's really cool.
I would love to claim it, but it started 25 years ago with our founders. So it's been important to them since. And so it's my job to carry it through, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that makes your job easy, but it is a good circumstance to be in.
Yes.
Marketing.
For sure.
Yeah. So we all know that consumers look at reviews. This is just one stat among many different studies that show that basically everybody on the planet thinks reviews are an important factor in making a purchase decision. So if we haven't already convinced you that you need to pay attention to them, certainly this should make the point. So our third topic is maintaining accurate business information. That sounds even to me like a boring topic. However, this is a good couple of screenshots to illustrate the fact. And Casey, you're kind of deep into this as much as me, that Google profiles especially, but online profiles in general, are very deep and detailed these days. So the idea of maintaining accuracy is actually turned into a pretty big challenge.
Yes. And it's so far beyond the days of just name, address, phone, right? Like that's not good enough anymore. And consumers have come to expect so much more from businesses. They want that high level of detail. I mean, we see it in even just changes in searches that are being conducted in places. Like they're not just searching for, coffee shop. They're searching for, where can I get a chai tea latte? Where can I get they're being a lot more specific. Or maybe they have some type of, like, I think here, accessibility need. Like, I am in a wheelchair. Is this place wheelchair accessible? Am I able to get coffee here? Am I able to visit this location? Those optimizations and it's not just Google, but that these channels are requesting businesses to make, they're doing it for a reason. Consumers are asking for it, and these channels are providing those outlets for brands to provide this information. It's crucial.
And if you don't bother to indicate that you have a drive-through, that one caught my attention, because sometimes that's what I'm looking for, is a coffee shop that has a drive-through, right? I don't want to go to the one that's inside a grocery store. The worst experience you could have, right? If you're looking for a drive-through. So if you don't bother to indicate that you have one, you're going to miss out completely when people search for coffee shop with drive-through near me. Right? You're gonna rank for that search if you indicate it, and you're gonna be invisible if you don't. So it's pretty critical.
And what I will say too is it's very important to make sure that all of this information matches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you are optimizing your Google listing with all of this information, your landing page, your website should say the same exact information. Your social media pages should say the same exact information. At all costs, businesses should try to avoid these really easy to fall into discrepancies between all of these channels. And it's so important to keep this information up to date.
Yep.
I love that you brought that up, Casey, because last year when we launched our new website, it was really important to me to have one source of truth, and that is through Sochi. So we keep all of our store hours there, and it does push that out to the website. So, because it's nothing more frustrating for it to be wrong. Now, we constantly get updates and things like that, but it's really nice to have it in one place. We could change it in the Sochi and know that it's going to change it everywhere else. So thank you for that service. But it's really important to keep those hours, what time you're opening, what time you're closing, those types of things. Even holiday hours, I love that feature as well. It makes our lives a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So there's still a lot of trouble convincing many brands, certainly not the human being, but many others, to pay attention to these things. Just one stat around that is of all the different things that you can pay attention to in your Google business profile, one of them is that people are asking questions, and brands are not responding to those. 92% of those questions are going unanswered. That's just one stat among many that speaks to the fact that many brands are just neglecting to keep these things up to date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Sorry.
just going to say that that's a scary one too, because that question and answer space, I mean, one, it can be really informative for businesses to know, like, what are people asking about? What do they want to know about your business? You can do a lot with that. Two, if you don't answer, anybody on the web can answer. And oftentimes those responses are wrong, or they don't match brand style. And then the third point I want to make on this too is you can actually seed your own questions on Google and kind of make your own FAQ, which has been a really great optimization strategy for a lot of our brands.
Yep.
We took advantage of that. We did that, started doing that last year, seeding our own questions, seeing what everybody else was asking, and then sometimes putting on other pages. So we do an audit of that as well, and answer the questions correctly. Because you're right, a lot of people don't know, or we have such a wide variety of products, sugar-free, dairy alts, and so many different things. People might get confused. So we clarify things, but we also seed in questions, especially new products that we launch, so we can answer, how much caffeine does this have? Well, I heard it has this, but we're the voice of truth.
Yes.
And so those are great, important things that we look at as a brand.
I'm really happy that you brought up product launches. That's a huge recommendation that I make, because it's so hard sometimes to build up your authority for a certain product when you launch it, right? Like, you're known for one thing, and if you're getting into a new area, you have to almost like start over a little bit and get the authority for that. And I really think that seeding a question and answering it is a great place to start. And then you just build it up from there.
Yeah.
Well, just to underline the importance, one more time, of making sure all of that business information is up to date, and in particular related to hours of operation, which, by the way, 4th of July is coming up next week. Google sent out emails to a bunch of businesses saying, are your hours up to date for 4th of July? And they do that, right? And the reason is that holiday hours can change sometimes, and people can be confused. And if you don't do anything, Google will actually flag hours may differ due to holiday on your profile, and people will be even more confused because they're getting the indication that the hours that they're looking at might be wrong. So you got to make sure that you're providing those updates. And in fact, when we asked consumers, if you were to visit a business whose online profile states that it is open, so I looked it up online first, it says they're open, and I went there and found the business was actually closed, what would be your most likely next, it should say next step, sorry about that typo. What would be your most likely next step? The biggest group, 47%, would look for a similar business nearby. So almost half of consumers, and you can see the other responses, but that's really the one I want to focus on. Almost half of consumers would give up and go to a competitor if your hours are wrong, in a way that inconveniences them, right? So the risk of lost business, lost loyalty, not even having the chance to earn loyalty from a new customer is really, really significant. And this might not be something that's going to happen every day, but if it happens, you're losing out in a way that you may not even be aware of if you're not paying attention to this.
Yeah, just a quick anecdote. There's a really cute Italian deli that opened up down the street from me. They do not manage their Google business profile. They have not posted hours. I have messaged them on Facebook, where they also do not post their hours, and literally offered to do free SEO work so that I can help them update their business listing, because I just want to know when they're open. And I have not visited them yet. They've been open for like 5 months maybe. And it's still not updated, and it's driving me insane. So I will not visit the business if I don't know if they're open.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people, the pandemic is still relevant in our lives, in the sense that it created an even higher expectation for digital availability of businesses than we even had before that. So, and it didn't go back to the previous state. So we all really expect that businesses are going to be present and available online and answering our questions online, as we've been saying. And lots of people don't want to call them up or get out of their car and check. They just won't do it, you
Nope.
know? So if you're not doing this, you're not going to get their attention. All right, so to round us out here, as I mentioned earlier, I just wanted to talk for a second about Sochi. We've been kind of mentioning as we've gone here that some of the problems and opportunities that we've been discussing are solved for within the Sochi platform, and this is not a sales conversation at all, but just to make you aware of that, Sochi, in fact, is a comprehensive local marketing platform that offers solutions for many of the areas, all of the areas that we've been discussing: search, social, and reviews on the left-hand side, but also ads, surveys, chatbots, and everything that you really need in order to be competitive in local markets on digital platforms. What's really been an important evolution for us in the last year or more is to begin to incorporate AI as an automation layer, which we call Soci Genius, in all of these services. And now with the recent launch in May of what we call Genius Search, those three important pillars that we've been focusing on in this conversation: Genius Search, Genius Social, Genius Reviews, they all have that automation layer built in. And so we're not stopping there. We actually just launched AI support for our chat tool as well. So we're moving very quickly to basically fill out the entire platform with automation, which, the right way to understand that is the platform already solved for all of these problems, but organizations like the Human Being are complex organizations with lots of players and moving parts, and it's sometimes hard to get the full value out of these tools. Automation can help with that. That's really our approach to Genius. It's not replacing the marketer in any way. It's just helping the marketer do more and taking out the kind of busy work in that, as well as surfacing, especially on the search side, and social as well, surfacing recommendations that the data kind of helps to generate for what you should be optimizing in your search profiles, what you should be posting or could be posting on social based on signals that we see in your online data to help you do your job better and more effectively. And then we also have on the right-hand side, Soci Shield, which for those of you who are especially concerned with regulatory compliance, there's a lot of different regulations around consumer privacy and use of data, depending on what industry you're in. We have all of that built into the platform as well in ways that you can configure to require approval before things are posted, to flag things automatically if they might be in potential violation of a regulation. So that's all taken care of as well. I'm not going to say much more about it than that, but if you want to find out more, certainly reach out to us. And if you're interested in more information about the consumer survey, which again is called the Consumer Behavior Index, we just released that earlier this year. Please go ahead and take a second to scan that QR code and download that report. And I'll linger on that screen for a second, but I just want to say, as we're nearing the end of the hour here, both Janie and Casey, thank you so much. This was really fun for me. This was an easy one, and I found it very interesting, and I appreciate all of your time and feedback.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's see. I think we might have one final. Okay, well, that's the thank you slide, as they say. And so thank you all for being here. We had a good time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Janie, Damien, and Casey. This was excellent content. We really do appreciate it. Again, this webinar was recorded, and along with the presentation deck will appear on our website early this evening. You'll be able to find that at community.franchise.org. Thank you very much again to Janie, Damien, Casey, and the rest of the Sochi team. And again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day and stay safe and healthy. Bye.